Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canned Air, your tribute to pop culture. I am Jeremy Colley.
I'm Jack Doherty.
And I'm Randy Hardenbrook.
And joining us today from Fronz Productions, we welcome writer and director Samuel Fronsman to the show. Samuel, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. The pleasure's all mine. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. Excited to talk with you. And I'm just now realizing I totally forgot to ask before we even started. Do you prefer Sam or Samuel?
Sam is fine. Yeah, most people just call me Sam. Other people call me Rick, but that's a different story.
I would say so. It's nothing close to Sam. I would say so, but no worries. We won't dig into that here. But yeah, we invited Sam over to talk a little bit about his independent film production company, which I'm very excited to hear about. After reading your bio, you have a lot of irons in on the fire, seemingly.
Oh yeah. Sometimes feels like so many projects that I'm managing, but at the same time, it's like I wouldn't trade it for the world. I absolutely love what I do, and if I didn't, why would I be doing it?
That's a damn good question. I ask myself that sometimes. But I don't have an answer. Anyway, though, when we do this, I like to always go back and see where you guys come from, what you were like as kids. And in your bio, you had said that since childhood, you were always coming up with stories, and that you didn't just simply pretend. You and your friends would follow complete plot lines, which is interesting as hell. I think I did that a few times when playing with toys, but I'd never had friends that were dedicated enough to follow out plot lines with me. Yeah. So you're very lucky in that aspect. But can you talk about what spurred your interest in writing stories at such a young age?
It's something that's always been kind of ingrained in me. I've always loved watching movies. I've always loved, television. And it's just like, I've always had this kind of vivid imagination where like, I like to, in essence, like create my own worlds, create my own universes where like anything, can happen. And I mean, the reason why me and my friends, had full structured narratives when we would play is mainly me. That was all, I would kind of dictate and I would like have to say, all right, we got to pause, but that is so out of character. You cannot do that. You cannot say that. We need to go. Let's step back. And cameras weren't even rolling. I didn't even have a digital camera at the time. It was just something that was, that was fun for me. Like I got like really into zombies and I created like this whole like, fictional universe in my head of like my own version of, The Walking Dead and kind of taking that or mixing it into, like comic books and it's just kind of everything that I would watch as a kid. Like wrestling was huge. I was always a huge WWE guy. And so me and my buddy Brandon, we would put on like wrestling shows and we would, write storylines and put on matches, and it's just kind of something where I watch something and I'm like, hey, I could do something like that and I'd do it a little bit differently. And then that's it kind of spiraled. And the older I got and, being able to get, some of my earlier digital cameras or filming on my phone and, failed YouTube channels and stuff along those lines. But it always, something remained consistent that I have like this burning urge to create. So, and now I'm doing it on a much bigger scale than what I ever thought possible, Sure. And so it's something that's really cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you remembered any of the plot lines that you and your friends had, played or acted out, but it sounded like you named a few of them there. I'm sure riddled with copyright infringement, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But there was a fun little, this is something that I tell people this and they think, oh, what kid thinks like that? But even if, I'm like 7, 8 years old playing with action figures, I would like yell, no, you cannot have Batman and Spider-Man in the same game because one's Marvel and one's DC and we have to follow copyright rules. And I'm like 8 years old and my buddies are like, dude,
lighten up, Sam. Jesus.
You're just walking up, smacking Spider-Man out of their hands like, no!
Yeah, exactly.
He did it again. It's funny though you say that. Because like I remember when I was young, when I would play with toys, I had plot lines for them too, but they weren't like written out. They just kind of like, I was along for the ride, even though I was the one orchestrating it. I never knew what was going to happen next time I played, but there came a time where I like the plot line finished, and then like I was just like, okay, I think I'm done playing with toys. You know what I mean? Like I had come up with a story. I don't remember shit about it now, but at the time, it was fucking good, Sam.
Oh yeah. I
Kind of
remember
think
the
to
last
yourself, well,
one.
now what do you do?
That's exactly what it was. I tried to play again, and I was like, nothing will top that. Like I'm done. I retire. But that's so cool that you've always had that. So you can't like attribute that to like a single movie or a book or like a TV show that like spurred that initial, I need to create. Like, this is so cool. I would like to make something like that.
You know what? If I were to say there was any like one particular thing that really kind of kicked things into overdrive, I touched on it a little bit, but it would be the WWE. Like that shaped a lot of my interests, shaped my tastes in music. It got me into wanting to watch more action type of things. Like if you notice, like when I've sent you my bio, a lot of what I've worked on, like even in my films, are pretty action heavy movies, and it's just always been something that's been ingrained in me. As I like something more thrilling, I like something more action packed. And being 6 years old, and my buddy says, oh, you got to tune into this Friday Night SmackDown, and the first thing I see is Booker T and Batista are battling it out backstage, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. It's like the coolest thing that my like 6-year-old brain had like ever seen up to that point in time, and so I just like instantly started coming up with my own ideas, and it just kind of transitioned from wrestling into movies. And as I got older, watching more action movies, watching more crime thrillers, watching horror movies. Horror's been a huge influence on me as well as a genre, and so just anything that's like just in your face, raw energy, even like music. I listen to songs, and I picture scenes in my head playing out to music, and I'll like write alongside to like at the time it was almost exclusively like hard rock and like metal, but now it's like I'll sit there and start hammering shit out, listening to like gothic country music, and I'll just get these ideas in my head.
Did you just say gothic country music?
Yeah, gothic country. That is a thing.
I didn't think I heard right. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if I would like that though.
I'm a little concerned and a little scared at the same time
She
here.
took my dog and my rock.
Is it like Guar with a banjo, or like what are we talking here?
Guar's not goth.
Well, they call it gothic country, and I actually had the same conversation with my friend the other night. It's like they call it gothic country. It's not like gothic in what you would typically think of. More that it's like country, folk, bluesy style music, but has a lot more darker themes to it. So like about war and death,
Johnny Cash.
Yeah, actually, a lot of it's like modern day Johnny Cash, but with a lot more, even more like grunge rock influence.
Okay.
And is that like an official genre? Like, could I search on like Spotify, like goth country, and some shit would come up, or do you just like you have to be in the know to know what that is?
Oh yeah, no, you can. Actually, the best playlist is called Spooky Banjo Time. If you just look up Spooky Banjo Time, it's going to come up. Actually, a group called Pawns or Kings, which they actually let me license one of their songs for my feature film that I just did.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm always happy to shout them out, but they're actually kind of like my introduction to it. One of their songs popped up on just my TikTok For You page a few years back, and I thought, oh wow, this is cool. And like all of his videos are saying, like, people say that they hate country, but they don't hate country, they just hate bad music, or this is country music for metalheads. And I'm like, I see what you're putting down. I kind of get it. And they made that Spooky Banjo playlist. It's great. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Intrigued.
Time to go down a rabbit hole.
Right?
Shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. I'm excited to hear that. Yeah, that's going to be interesting for sure.
Yep.
Expand our mind a little bit. Okay, very cool. So, then you went on and studied in integrated media at the University of Mount Union, where you took classes in film production. And this is what really kickstarted your want to make film. So, I'm curious, was that the first time that had crossed your mind, like creating your own film, or like what were you planning to do with your love of writing stories up to that point?
Well, to be honest with you, at that point in time, I was a lot more interested in music. And I wanted to, start a band, and I wanted to, make story driven rock and roll music. Um, and I went to college because at the time I'm like, okay, I have to go to college. I got to do something. And I went into the program mainly for radio. And I wanted to get into radio broadcasting and kind of marry that with my love for music. And then I did do that for a while. While I was in school, I hosted my own radio show. I DJ'd, during the day just as a work study program for a little extra pay and a little bit of experience, but something just wasn't quite doing it for me. And it wasn't my first time ever tossing around the idea of wanting to make movies, but I would say that it was my first time really considering it on a much more serious level than just grabbing a couple of my buddies and filming some, poorly done comedy skits in high school. I went into this class thinking, okay, I want to try something different. I want to have some fun with it and kind of see where it takes me. And I fell in love with it because it encapsulates every other form of art into one. Yeah. And so when you look at a movie, you're looking at visual art. Every frame is a painting. Every shot is composed specifically as a painting, from the way that the actors are blocked to the lighting, to the mise en scène, and everything that goes along with that. But then you look at the sound design and how much sound effects and music play into that as well. Looking at the aspects of literature and writing, and how every movie, either it succeeds or it fails on the script. And so you take every individual form of art and you put it together, and it becomes a movie. It becomes a coherent story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it really captures everything. And so that, I think, is what really drew me to it the most. And plus, it came at a time in my life where I really needed something. I took that class in a year that overall wasn't going very well. And so having this newfound passion, this spark, this fire, really drove me to want to, go bigger with it and have something to latch on to not focus on a lot of the negatives that were going on that year. So that's kind of how it happened.
I love the way you describe that too, because I'd never thought of it like that. Movies you always think of as an art form, but it's really the art form that requires all other art forms to come together, doesn't it?
Very much so. And that's what I love about it. You look at theater and acting. That's, when you watch a movie, what are you watching? You're watching actors performing, and if you just take every aspect of it, it's like on its own, that's its own art form. But when you put it together, and then not only you're putting it together, but you're putting it together to become one singular thing, one singular story that hopefully can move you emotionally in one way, shape, or form.
Wow. It's funny how somebody can just say something, you can look at something completely different, going forward. That's a great point. It makes it not only makes a movie seem more enriching, but like for me, who would love to touch my toe into kind of the stuff you're doing someday, makes it seem a little more daunting too, doesn't it? That's a lot of shit to put together.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And I joke with people that to do this, you have to be addicted to stress, because there's so many moving pieces. And the thing that I don't think people think about the most is you can have all the technical filmmaking knowledge in the world. You could have the best script in the world. You could have, everything else come together. But now you have to manage a group of people because it's unlike, I could pick up the guitar. I could record some music. I could take a microphone. I can sing to it. I could do a lot of stuff on my own. But with a movie, you can't do that. You have to have an entire team of people, and you have to get everybody aligned. And whether it's your actors or whether it's everyone on the crew, from your cinematographer to your sound mixer to your makeup artist, you have to get everybody in the same place at the same time and communicate the same vision to them. So that way you're making one coherent piece. So it's the people management, I think, is the biggest aspect altogether that, a lot of people don't entirely think about. It's such a challenging process, but at the same time, it's such a rewarding process too. And you develop almost like this, blood bond with the people that you work with. So that would probably be the most daunting aspect, I would say.
Yeah. And like you were saying, it's something that people probably don't think about until they're in the thick of it. They're invested right there on the spot, like, oh shit, I need to convey my point to everyone on this set has to see my vision or this isn't going to work.
Not only that, but everyone's got all their certain styles. So to be able to get the right style to work with everything and then get all those to work together, that's got to be pretty rough too.
But I would imagine, depending on the project too, and depending on the director, because, there's some people who are very fixed on it has to be this exact vision. But, sometimes movies turn out a little different than they were originally thought up, just because of the different, like you're saying, Jack, different elements and different things that people bring in, different perceptions of your vision.
Oh, all the time. I don't think I've ever made a movie that came out exactly as I originally envisioned. But 9 times out of 10, it's for the better, because other people came to me with some suggestions and some ideas that I never thought of, and putting those ideas into the project then ultimately enriches it. It's not what I thought it was going to be, but then it turns out to be something, even better than that. And sometimes those changes don't even necessarily come from other people bringing ideas. Sometimes it's a logistical problem that you have to solve. Like if you're having an issue with the location, and I've had that before. On In the Hands of Fate, I wrote this entire kidnapping scene that would take place in what I imagined to be an abandoned warehouse, and that proved to be a challenge to be able to get that as a location. We ended up having one, but because of other extraneous circumstances, we had to completely cancel and reschedule that entire day of shooting. And then I found out there were some, potential logistical complications with that particular warehouse, namely in that it was supposed to be a night scene, but we had to shoot it during the day, which is fine if you can block out all the windows and everything. But when parts of the roof, are missing and sunlight is coming through the roof, how are you going to make that look like nighttime unless you actually shoot it at night? And that
dark filters.
Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen people do it. I've never seen it look good.
No, that's always so apparent. You're like, oh, come on, it's daytime.
Like shit. Yeah,
exactly. And it ended up being, because we couldn't get that warehouse, I ended up reaching out to some old connections from when I was doing some ghost hunting stuff, and we ended up getting a old abandoned bar that has since been turned into a dog training facility, and using it as kind of like this abandoned bar location instead ended up being a much more inventive and creative location that just has it's my favorite scene in the Hands of Fate, hands down. And a lot of it was the location that we got, because you see abandoned warehouses all the time, but how often do you see an abandoned bar that has like all these pictures of dogs and things are all in it because of the fact that now it's a dog training facility?
Not very often, I would have to imagine. Not very often. It's pretty cool though. So man, I was going to ask you before we jumped into Hands of Fate, about after you graduated. You were talking in your bio about working in local indie filmmaking in Northeast Ohio, but you talked about doing some cinematographer work on some short films, and a few that you wanted to talk about were one Andrew William Chapman's was it Scavenged, and
Yes.
Richard Russell's Shadow of how do you
Shadows of Thewlis.
Thewlis. Gotcha. Can you
Thewlis,
tell
yeah.
us a little bit about these films and your involvement?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Actually, the two that I mentioned that we're talking about aren't even some of the shorts. Those are the two features that I helped on.
Oh, those are the features. I'm
Tremendously.
sorry.
And no, you're all good. But Scavenged, I want to talk about first because Andrew Chapman is the guy who basically got me into the local film scene when I got out of college. Because when I graduated, I knew one person in the area who wanted to make movies, and that was me. And I was like, when am I going to do this again? Well, I took a job as a scare actor at the Factory of Terror haunted house in Canton. And how it happened was I was working this room one of the first couple nights of the haunt season, and I was being put into a room with a guy named Andrew. He was going to be my scene partner for the night. And before customers were coming in, we're just sitting there bullshitting a little bit to go back and forth, kind of talk, get to know each other. And he had like 4 years of experience on me doing the scare acting, so getting some of his methods and how he likes to do things. And then I got to talking about a short film I did in college, One Hell of a Ride, and that was going to be in a film festival in Columbus. And he just looks at me and goes, "Wait, you make movies too?" I'm like, "Wait, you make movies too? Did we just become best friends?" And and it just kind of played out to where next thing you know, he's getting me out onto set for this horror movie called Hellvan, and I was only part of it one night, but here I am just showing up to some gun range that has a cliff, and they're driving a police cruiser over top of the cliff and then blowing it up. And I'm just, that was like one of the first sets that I was on. I'm like, dude, this is cool.
You picked the right day of production to visit, huh?
Yeah.
Shit.
Oh yeah, that was one of the most badass things that I've ever shot, like, to this day. But eventually, Andrew was doing a sequel to his original movie, Scavengers, which at the time I didn't know him, so I never got to be part of Scavengers. But he wanted to get me involved as one of his lead cinematographers for Scavenged, and that was because I'd worked on other sets in terms of, I did a feature up in Cleveland where I was helping out, helping with the sound crew as a boom operator. That's another great production, Calendar, that Nick Mulbach made. Excellent director, excellent movie. But this was, Scavenged was my first time on somebody else's set, actually operating the camera and helping to compose the shots. And it was such a fun experience, and help it teach me a lot more about what my own style is as a cinematographer, and actually composing these shots but for somebody else's vision, and finding that balancing act of incorporating a little bit of my own vision, but then also ultimately getting what the director wants. And so I owe a lot of it to Andrew for getting me involved and for bringing me on his team for that movie. And then as far as Shadows of Thewlis goes, that we just finished production with this year. But in addition to being Richard Russell's director of photography on it, I was also his co-producer, and so he had me helping him with the scheduling, with casting, which was fun. There were some times where some of the original actors who he had cast in that film, he had to delay the movie by a year. It was originally going to shoot last year, ended up shooting this year. So not all the original actors were able to stay in it. And I was able to help on the casting process and bring in some people that I know and have worked with in other movies before. And, you know, have them reach out to Richard and help, you know, get them into this movie and get to work with them again. One example would a guy named Daniel Repus, who I'd met a couple of occasions. Once on one of my short films I cast him in, and then I worked with him extensively on Scavenged and ended up giving him a good part in Shadows of Thewlis. And then Adam Joseph Turner, that's a whole different story. So I mean, you can ask me, because Adam is one of my closest friends. And at this point, I don't know if there's a movie, at least on a feature-length level, that I do without Adam. But I've worked with him on everything from I met him on Scavenged, cast him as the lead actor for In the Hands of Fate. And then when the actor that was going to play Thewlis backed out on Shadows of Thewlis, I talked to Richard and said, hey, you get a hold of Adam. He would probably want this part. And Adam stepped in, and oh my gosh, we saw a new side of him playing this like crazy serial killer. I mean, Adam like scared the shit out of us a few different times on set. He's terrific, but
It's a good sign.
both. Oh yeah, oh yeah, and it was so rewarding. Shadows of Thewlis was, because I was, you know, Richard and I were in the trenches on this every step of the way, and just, you know, helping him see what, you know, from reading his original script to, you know, working with him every day on set and just putting our heads together, coming up with, you know, he would come up with these crazy shot ideas. He'd have me get, like our first day on set, he put me in the trunk of a car and called it payback for putting him into some small spaces on In the Hands of Fate. But, you know, then sometimes I would say, man, you got to trust me on this. Let me do this. I'm going to give you a shot that is going to blow you away. And he'd say, all right, Fronz, I trust you. Go ahead. And I'd be like, okay, we'll do it. And then he'd look at it and he'd go, oh man, that's awesome. Cool. And he'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. And that was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I'd say very rewarding feeling coming from that right there, that experience. Damn.
Yeah. And it was one of those where it was, you know, there were always going to be those moments. And I have it on every set. It's a roller coaster. There's always going to be the ups and downs. You know, somebody's sick that day. We have to reschedule part of the shoot, but why don't we still get everyone together that is able to make it, and let's shoot everything that doesn't involve that actor, and then we only have to reschedule half the shoot. And so it's a lot of something just gets thrown at you at the last second. There's an actor who's not able to make it, so okay, now how do we now take what would have been two characters and then merge them into one character so that we can keep things moving along, since that actor is no longer able to be in the movie anymore. And, you know, that would be something that would happen like the day of, like we're on set and we get that call that, you know, so-and-so can't make it and isn't going to be able to be in the movie. Oh, shoot. You know, now we got to take this, what was two characters. We got to hurry up and try to make that one character and then still make it work and make it make sense. And I think that's, you know, the two of us, that was something that we were able to do. And ultimately every decision was his, but I was always there as his co-producer, you know, for him to bounce ideas off of. And I'd give him ideas. Sometimes he'd like the idea and he'd go with it. And other times he'd tell me, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it the way I have it. And I'd go, all right, sounds good. We'll do it your way. And we did, and it worked. And it's he's editing it right now, and I'm really happy with it. I was over at his house the other day, and he showed me a lot of the scenes that he's been editing in the rough cut, and I think that this is going to be Shadows of Thewlis is going to be a movie that really really shocks people and really, just it's going to keep people on the edges of their seats. I think it's going to be one of those indie darling movies that just people are going to be talking about it.
I'm excited to see it.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds cool as shit. And also based on what everything you're saying, just being in the field, you can learn only so much at school, but being in there, having your hands in it, working with someone, that's the best education you can probably get. And I'm sure it came in great handy when just last year you wrote and directed the film you were just talking about, your first feature, In the Hands of Fate. Can you tell us about that movie?
Oh, absolutely. So, In the Hands of Fate is a crime thriller that focuses on a hitman who has to go after a witness that he previously spared after she steals money from a powerful mob boss. However, she ends up becoming entangled with a cult when she's seeking help from an old friend. Now, when the worlds of gangsters and cultists collide, everyone's life is in the hands of fate. It's basically, I just have the back of the DVD cover ingrained in my brain.
Oh yeah, when you're selling your own product enough, we just get there, don't we?
Oh sure. But this is a combination of a lot of ideas that I had even back when I was in school. Believe it or not, I made my first short film when I was in college, Crossfire, and some of those characters, like Rocco and his gang, I kept in my back pocket because I said, these characters are bigger than a short film. I'm going to do something else with them. And I started writing this script, and the original working title of it was The Belly of the Beast. And at the time, I had just watched Bad Times at the El Royale, excellent movie. I think it's Chris Hemsworth's best performance. In only having seen him as Thor in the past, and then seeing him play this like villainous cult leader, like it was something that stuck with me. And I thought, well, what if I took this gang that I made, these mobsters that I made for this short film, what if they had to fight a guy like that, like this almost Charles Manson like cult leader? And so that was the foundation. And I wrote it. The original draft was like 400 pages long. It was completely unshootable. It was as cool as it was. I looked at it and said, I'm never making this thing. I'd need like $20 million to do this. This is insane. But when I was up in Cleveland helping out as a boom operator on that movie I talked about earlier, Calendar, I met this actor named Stephen Shanti, and he and I instantly hit it off. Some of our best conversations, he and I would just be, it was like freezing cold, like, because we shot a lot in the winter time. So it'd be like, 30 degrees out, but he and I are like both out there, shivering and smoking cigarettes at the street and just talking film. And I ended up pitching the idea to him because I was like, Steve, I have this idea. It's a little bit ambitious, but I don't know anybody else who could play Rocco the way that I know you can play Rocco. And he was intrigued and he wanted to read the script. And so he did. And instantly he was attached. And he said, Sam, we have to make this movie somehow, some way. And when I was working on Scavenged, that's where I met Adam Turner. And similar story, I was watching him do a monologue scene for that film, and it just sent goosebumps like down my entire body to where I was like, I found Donovan. I found the lead character, the hitman, the guy that the whole movie hinges on. Pitched that part to him, and I'm like, okay, we need to get somebody to play Vic, and then we need to shoot a proof of concept, raise some money, and try to make this thing happen. And I put out a casting call and ended up casting a guy by the name of Keith Migra to play the part of Vic. Got him out to set, and we shot the proof of concept. It was a simple scene, just the opening scene of In the Hands of Fate, where they're just, sitting in the parking lot and they meet Rocco and he hires Donovan for his first job. And I thought, okay, I've got this really cool, Tarantino style opening scene. We're going to show this off, say, hey, we need some money to film the rest of the movie. I put the Indiegogo out, and crickets.
Oh.
We raised nothing. It was abysmal. And I said, again, we're never making this movie. And it was Adam, it was Steve, it was Keith, and then most of all, it was my mom, who, basically shook me and said, no, you're going to find a way to make this with or without the budget. You're going to find a way to do it. And it was hard. We had our ups and downs. I had mostly money that I saved up myself, working as a part-time high school substitute teacher. And we had $7,000, and it wasn't enough budget to be able to pay the cast and crew. But so many people believed in the story. So many people believed in me as a director, that they said, we're not worried about that. We want to make this movie. This is something special, and we just want to bring it to life. And so everybody came together, and somehow, some way, we pulled it off. And I mean, I couldn't be more proud of everybody, because it wasn't me. It was all the people who came around me, and from the cast to the crew, that just the level of excellence, and all the people on set who are way more experienced than even I am now, like people that have years and years over me, and just coming together and making this thing. And it's cool, and it's available to watch now for free on Fossum or on Reveal, or you can purchase a DVD from my website, samfronsman.weebly.com. So
Perfect. Which I'll have all the links for in the description of this, so people can easily get to your website, get to Fossum, wherever they want to check out the film. That's exciting, though, man. Especially to hear that everyone pulls together to make this vision happen when it's looking like it's just not going to happen. It probably adds a special layer of love for that film for you, I'd have to imagine, if that makes any sense. That made sense in my head when I was saying it, but when it came out, it didn't sound as good as that.
Oh, you have the Randy effect. Okay.
Something like that. Now, another film you're currently in production on, a short crime drama called A Deal in Blood, which I believe you mentioned a little bit ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
yeah, so it's funny. I made this short. I started writing it rather as a fun idea of something I could do in my off year, something that could be simple, get some of my actor friends together, make something simple. And scheduling has been tough on it. A few scheduling conflicts have come about to where we have to, what we were going to shoot this month in September, now we're not able to shoot and finish up until November. But what we have done so far, our first day of production, we shot half the short already, is absolutely amazing. Like, and I'm not trying to brag on myself, because once again, it's like, it wasn't, I don't want to give myself all the credit when we have just such amazing talent that we already shot with, like Angelo Odo and Larry DiBartolomeo, Tony Wynn, Sabrina Hanetti, all of these amazing actors that bring so much life to their characters. Such an awesome crew. Andrew and Richard were both on camera, and I couldn't have asked for a better camera team than that. Michael Carino doing sound, and he's actually gonna also be acting in the movie. But narratively, it's a crime drama that focuses on the political corruption and ties to organized crime. And one thing that I wanted to do with this short film is I didn't want to take sides, because I know when you're getting into anything political, especially like the current climate in our country, they're very tribalist on both the left and the right. I didn't want to go that direction with the politics. I wanted to take two different opposing forces, the characters being, in this case, Governor Frank Delaney, Senator John Romano, but they're both running against each other for the U.S. Senate, where Romano's the incumbent senator, and then the Governor Delaney is he's leaving office as governor, wants to be in the U.S. Senate running against him. You don't know who's a Republican or who's a Democrat. It could be either one. But what you do know is that they're both making deals with, various powerful, organized crime figures. John Romano is making a deal with Vito Caruso, or I should say, when you watch the movie, you'll see it's really Vito Caruso making a deal with John Romano. But he's a mafia captain who works for Don Michael Cavallero. He's the boss, but Michael Cavallero's having an affair with Vito's wife. So when she ends up dead, Vito thinks that Michael's the one who had her killed. Only there's a little bit more happening behind the scenes that he's not aware of. So that's kind of the storyline for it. It's only going to be like 15-minute long short film, but
that's a lot to fit in. A lot of whodunit in that 15 minutes.
Yeah, that was a challenge writing it, I would say, to be able to have enough suspense, but also get to the point quick enough, that we're not turning this into some big feature length. So most of the film is going to, the part that we haven't shot yet, which is the conversation between Vito and John, all takes place at a restaurant where they're having their back and forth talking. But then we see the flashback of Don Cavallero and Frank Delaney, and then of Vito's wife, Gabriella, and how all that plays out and how she dies. And we see all of that happen in a flashback, and then it goes back to the present, which is where we'll finally get those answers of, well, what really happened to Vito's wife, and who really had her killed. But that's all I can say without spoiling it, because like I said, it's very short and to the point.
Yeah, I would say you have to let us know when that comes out.
Oh, absolutely. It'll probably be sometime in December, because
Okay.
we're finishing it up in November, and then I already have half the movie edited, because we shot the first half of it. We shot in this month, at the beginning of the month, and then the second half we're shooting at the end of November. And like I said, it's a short film. I'll have that edited within a couple weeks, and it'll be ready to go in December.
Exciting. Please send us links, please.
Oh, absolutely.
And I have to also ask about one more film in development currently, Crimson Night, which I love the description here. Co-written, it's a detective thriller that is co-written and co-starring two real-life retired homicide detectives. How the hell did you pull that together?
Happened chance. I happened to meet two actors while working on other movies who are, at the time, they were both on the force. They weren't retired until very recently. At the time, they were just acting on the side in between their day job, which was solving murders. And so I met a fantastic guy by the name of James Belenka, and he was an actor, or is an actor out of Cleveland, but he was acting, believe it or not, as a detective in a short film that I was helping on called Limits. And when he was talking about, oh yeah, no, I'm actually a detective in real life, that's why I usually get cast for this sort of thing, I was asking him, like, well, has anyone that blew me away. I'm like, wait, what do you mean you're a detective but you're also an actor? Like, that one threw me for a loop. But I asked him, I'm like, well, did anyone ever come to you as a script consultant? Like, has anyone ever actually like given you a script and asked to be fact checked to make it more realistic? And he said, nobody's ever asked me to dissect their writing, because he said, I watch a lot of police thrillers, a lot of shows and movies, and I act in a lot of stuff like that. And a lot of times I will just kind of roll my eyes and say, yeah, that would never happen. That's so unrealistic. And I said, well, if I'm going to do something like this, I want it to be realistic. So I would rather send you that script. Well, fast forward, a couple years, because I wasn't able to get that off the ground at the time. Adam Turner. I've talked about him a few different times. I talked about him as Thewlis. I've talked about him as Donovan and In the Hands of Fate.
Mm-hmm.
Take a guess what his day job was. He just retired this year.
Wow.
Yep.
See, that's like there's something in the ether pulling the strings to make this happen,
Right.
Yeah.
And it blows my fucking mind that no one has ever given him their script or their project to be like, can you fact check this? That seems like a no-brainer.
You would think, but I've watched so many movies, and actually, what was cool is Adam, when I was writing the script, Adam ended up giving me all of his textbooks from his criminal justice program, and he's even got a master's degree in forensic pathology, and he had me like read an entire thesis paper he wrote on just the process of autopsies, and so I had so much reading material, and even then, I would still be like, okay, I'm going to send you guys these pages. I'd send it to Adam. I'd send it to James. We'd have a meeting, and they'd tell me, yeah, this is really good. This is what you did right. And then they'd say, this could use a little bit of work. And it'd be those little details, like the opening scene I wrote has the flashing police lights as they're pulling up at the crime scene. And Adam laughs and goes, that's only in movies. We would never have the lights actually flashing. All that does is it draws a bigger crowd of onlookers than what we're already going to have, and we're trying to keep people back away from the scene, not draw more people to it. And I was like, yeah, I never thought of that. So how crazy would it be if we do have a police cruiser pulled up but we don't have the lights shining? That's already going to tell you, hey, this isn't like what you've seen before. This is going a different route. And then this is where it's going to really get interesting, because there's one aspect of Crimson Knight I haven't said yet. It is going to be one of the most realistic detective thrillers, but it's also a vampire movie.
Oh, shut up.
It is a vampire. Okay.
Hook, line, sinker.
Yes.
Sold.
Because
Let me get my wallet.
Oh, well, in that case, yes, absolutely. I said, if I'm going to tackle something like supernatural, like vampires, I needed to be grounded in the real world. And and that was like one of those ideas where I'm like, well, what if vampires were real? What if bodies were just showing up in this town and they got bite marks in their neck, and when they cut them open, they have like no blood whatsoever. Like, these are bodies that are completely drained. How would law enforcement deal with that? And so throughout the whole movie, they don't know they're going after a vampire, because who would ever think that? Vampires aren't real, right? Wrong.
Oh, I didn't think so before tonight, but now I don't know.
Yes, it's proof now.
So
that's exciting, man. That's a nice little twist. I'm glad you left that out of the description, because that's a nice little twist. It's cool enough to find out that it's co-starring, co-written by two real life homicide detectives. But shit, add vampires?
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's like putting whipped cream on top of the ice cream or something. It's just.
Without spoiling anything, are you gonna do like the From Dawn Till Dusk and like keep it a certain movie up to a certain point and then kind of pull the rug out from everybody, like, hey, vampires? Or are you gonna kind of have that theme throughout the whole thing?
I'm gonna have the theme throughout the whole movie. I love From Dusk Till Dawn. Don't get me wrong. I would go so far as to say that it's tied as like my favorite movie of all time.
Sure,
it's tied with Pulp Fiction for me. But I did the From Dusk Till Dawn twist in The Hands of Fate, where when you watch that halfway, all throughout that first half of the movie, you think it's just a gangster movie, and then boom, out of nowhere, cult shows up, and it's a cult movie.
Gotcha.
So with Crimson, I'm like, I want to open it up, actually. I could talk about the opening scene. That's not too spoilery. It opens up with the vampire theme from the very beginning.
Okay.
Where a mother is forced to kill her son because he's developing all these vampire traits, and so she has to kill him with a wooden stake. And it goes right from that to the detective showing up on the crime scene and basically wondering what the fuck kind of weird occult shit are we dealing with this time?
Okay.
Is, this is what, your second full-length feature, Crimson Knight, correct?
Yeah.
Is there the possibility that, this film, along with In the Hands of Fate, like, are happening in the same kind of universe? Anything like that?
There's going to be consistent themes. Like I have I have different fake brands that appear throughout my movies. Like I have a fake beer brand called Fronz. Like if you watch In the Hands of Fate, or even if you watch Shadows of Thewlis, it ended up into that movie too. And it's ended up in like other people's films as well. But it's like in Crimson Knight, we go further into, oh, well, one of the characters has a job working at the local Fronsman, brewery, But as far as being an overall shared universe, no, only because a lot of the actors are actors that were in the Hands of Fate, and I feel like at a certain point it would get a little confusing.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, like, well, and Adam's the lead in both of these, and in one movie he's a hitman, and in another movie he's a detective.
Then you got to start getting into multiverses and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Kevin Smith's films, like Dante and Randall show up in, like, say, Dogma, but they're not Dante and Randall. Like I can't remember O'Halloran, and like he'll be like a news reporter. Same actors, just different roles throughout the films. Mm-hmm. But that's a good point. Hadn't thought about that. Well, you're gonna have to keep us really in the loop on a lot of this stuff, man, because very intrigued. Especially that last one has really got me at the edge of my seat. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I thought it was like vampire type murders, they said, watching the Indiegogo video, but never did say that there was vampires, but that just changed the whole ball game.
Oh, sure. And like the audience is going to kind of know that from the beginning, but the detectives don't, because the detectives are, they're in the real world. And so like, even at one point, like they even get reamed out by their captain, because they're starting to go a little bit too far into like trying to see, does this have to do with people that are, really deep into the occult and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And he's like, we gotta, he's Captain Lombardo is like more at this point concerned with trying to keep the media at bay and not sensationalizing this too much by immediately jumping to conclusions that we have some occult themed serial killer on the loose.
Gotcha.
That wouldn't be fun, would it, if they figured it out right away? You got to let them struggle. Got to let some people die first.
Yeah, and then you got to... no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to spoil the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
We're really coaxing it out of you. It's really our fault if you think about it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I almost crossed the line of, if I say this, it's going to like damn near give away the big twist halfway through it, because there's a few different twists. So that's all I can say. There's a lot of M. Night Shyamalan style twists throughout this movie.
Yes.
Sold even more so now. I mean, you already had my wallet at the start of this Crimson Knight conversation, but now even more so. But yes, please keep us in the loop, because I would love to see that. Maybe we could, when it comes out, we could have a get-together solely talking about the film, maybe like a watch and review kind of a thing or something. I don't know.
Oh, that'd be fun. I'd like that.
That'd be fun, yeah. So yeah, keep us in the know. But one more thing I wanted to ask you about is your YouTube page, because there's a lot of different things on there. Not only some behind the scenes of projects from the past or what you're currently working on, but there's also videos on there where you're giving people in your position who are or earlier than in your position, people who are just starting out making films, tips, tricks on how to get started, making life easier on them. And then there's also, you have on there the Indie Spotlight podcast, where you sit down with some of the people who have been in your films and, talk about not only their experience on their films, but just their experience in the business, talking to different people in the business about the business for the most part. But I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about the YouTube and what is it that inspired you to want to help those people who are struggling?
I like to give a perspective on things that I wish that I would have known. And so a lot of like, for how to make your first feature film, I'm sharing lessons of things that went right, but also things that went wrong. And trust me, a lot of things went wrong. And, and I made my share of mistakes, and it's something where I wish that the younger Sam could have watched those videos. And I think about what would I want to know. And so, like, even when I was doing those podcast episodes for Indie Spotlight, one thing that I would talk to a lot of other filmmakers about, whether it was when I talked to Nick Malbach or Johnny Wu, just to name a couple, I would talk to them about distribution, because it's one thing to make a movie. It's another thing to get your movie out there to the world and not get scammed by a sleazy company that is going to basically steal your movie away from you. Whether or not that happens in a lot of cases, there's a lot of bad companies out there that if you sell your movie to them, you basically will lose all your rights, and there's no hope of you ever making a penny off of it.
Right.
But at the same token, and it's this balancing act. And like now that I've distributed in the Hands of Fate, and I went the self-distribution route, I look at, well, what advantages might I have had with a certain distributor than what I've had as doing it myself, going through Film Hub as an aggregator, and or going through like a company like Reveal. I mentioned them. I didn't have to go through anybody to get onto Reveal. Reveal actually came to me, and I basically said, yeah, you can put the movie on there so people can watch it. But then it's like, but these are also companies that don't quite have the reach or the pull. Like a distributor can, say, get your movie onto a bigger site like Netflix, or like, or like Hulu, or even, Tubi is getting to the point where Tubi is much bigger. At one point, it was the indie darling streaming app where everyone
Right.
had a movie on Tubi. And I noticed there's been a change throughout that company now. Tubi hasn't picked up in the Hands of Fate yet. And it surprised me because I thought they for sure would. But when I go on there now, sure, you still have indie movies, and a lot of them are older indie movies that have already been picked up. But there's a lot more, bigger budget Hollywood productions. I mean, Tubi streamed the Super Bowl, and so they got to deal with the NFL now. And so, like, they're not
shit,
the
yeah.
small indie gem that they once were. Now they're joining up in the big leagues. And so it's this balancing act of, well, do you go through somebody else and potentially lose your rights, but you get onto a bigger platform, or do you battle it out yourself, but keep your rights? And ultimately, that's what I chose to do. But back to the question, what inspires me to make the types of videos that I do? I asked a lot of questions on those Indie Spotlight podcast episodes about distribution, because those were things that I wanted to know, and that I think would help a lot of people. Of what do you do now that your movie's done? How do you get it out there? And what are the pros and cons of these different approaches? And a lot of what I'm saying now, I only know that through experience. And if, this is the kind of information that I want to share, because other people can have so much more to gain from it, hearing it from me versus, not knowing, the way around it, because everyone else talks about the technical aspect of filmmaking, and I like to look at the logistical side of it. And even some of the other videos, a lot of my directing advice goes more into working with people, and how to schedule people, because let's face it, everyone has their own life, everyone has other things going on, and it's hard to schedule people. And so how do you go about doing that? And these are the types of videos I put more time into. And I'll admit the YouTube channel has slowed down a little bit over the past few months, just because I've been busy with other projects, but I'm planning to get back into it. If not by the end of this year, kind of getting back into making some more of the educational content next year. But every time I learn something, I write that down, because that's what I would want to share to other people, is something where I needed to learn a lesson myself.
Right. And I tell you what, man, when we started podcasting, we were hungry for that kind of shit, and it just really wasn't anywhere.
It wasn't,
at the time.
yeah.
Now it is. All these years later, but then, man, we would have killed for something like that. So, yeah, man, keep putting it out there because there's definitely people who are going to find it and just be like, thank God there are some answers here. But I want to thank you so much for being here, man. This has been awesome. We'll have to get together because there's stuff that we didn't touch on, that we didn't get to. But in the meantime, I know people can find you at your website, fronsman.weebly.com, on your Instagram at Samuel Fronsman Official, and of course your YouTube page. Am I missing anything?
Yeah. So remember at the very beginning of the show when I said that I'm Rick. People call me Rick.
Oh yeah, it's coming full circle.
Yeah. So I am also on Facebook, but my name on Facebook is not my real name. It's Rick Harrison, like the guy from Pawn Stars.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So
any is there why? Are you hiding from someone or?
no. The story. I'll give you a short version. It's basically
notes.
I got hacked a few years ago, and rather than go through this whole process of trying to get my name changed or my name fixed or anything, because I go to do that and it's like, now we're detecting suspicious behavior on your Facebook. I'm like, nope, I already lost the account. I'm not losing it again. Forget it. I'm Rick Harrison. I don't care. I have worked with actors though now that even they could be on set with me for months at a time. Everyone's calling me Sam, but they met me on Facebook first, and so they just call me Rick, and I don't correct them. I'm just like, yeah, I'm Rick. That's fine. It's my alter ego.
That's
Batman
awesome.
to my Bruce Wayne.
I love it. I love it.
That's when later on you'd be like, yeah, you should meet my brother Sam.
Yeah.
My twin.
Twin brother.
Shirt quick. Puts on a hat and a mustache or shaves his mustache.
Yep. There you go.
There you go.
Hey, it happened.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick made it. What's going on?
Where'd Sam go? We were just having a lovely conversation with Sam.
Yeah, Sam, that guy's a schmuck. Rick's better anyway.
Well, man, this has been a blast talking with you again. Let's do it again in the future. Keep us in the know. Okay? Thank you so much for being here, Sam.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show. It's been a great time.
Good. We're glad you had fun. Jack, can you tell these lovely people where they can find us, sir?
Go to cannedairpodcast.com where you can listen to the show, listen to new episodes, see some of our special guests, buy some merch, and become a patron. And if you'd like to be a guest and promote your work, send us an email on our contacts page.
Don't forget to find us on social media, on TikTok at Canned Air Podcast, on Instagram at canned_air. And on the website Jack was just talking about, Canned Air Podcast, 2 different ways you can support us. First, a link to our Patreon channel, which has been going damn near 5 years now, with a ton of content. And all we ask in return, a mere $5 a month. Come on.
$5 for all the blackmail you're ever going to want on all 3 of us.
It's the truth. If you hate any of us, $5 a month gets you some ammo in your gun. It really does.
Oh my God.
Maybe overselling a little bit, but still.
We might have to up the price a little bit now.
Okay, $50 a month. No, I'm kidding. And then if extra content's not your bag, if you want to wear a shirt that says Canned Air, or have a mug or a hoodie or anything like that, Canned Air, the merch page, cannedairpodcast.com. I blanked there. See, we're not doing this as regular as we used to, and I'm starting to get fuzzy, boys.
We can't forget that hyperlink, guys. Come on,
Right. And Randy, what else we got?
No matter how you're getting your Canned Air fix, if you can't support us by getting on the Patreon, leaving us a like, subscribing, giving us some feedback, any little bit helps, and it doesn't just stroke our ego. It seriously helps. And huge shout out to evergreenpodcast.com, the network we are so proud to be a part of.
Absolutely. And that's another thing I always forget to say is It's only been within the past few years that we're really making sure every episode finds its way onto YouTube. And since then, we have begun cultivating an audience I don't think is very aware that we've been doing this since 2013, people. We have an audio catalog that goes all the way back to 2013, anywhere you find podcasts. So check it out. And if you've never looked at our YouTube page, you can see visuals to what you're listening to, people. Head over to YouTube.
We're sorry.
We truly do have faces for radio, but all the same, we're going to see what happens. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. I want to thank Sam once again for being here. I want to thank you all for listening and watching. Be excellent to each other.